In this week's episode, we're going to talk about the despicable denizens of Snake Mountain.
The evil horde.
Or just evil warriors.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Stay tuned.
Together we defend Castle Grayskull from the evil forces of Skeletor.
Hi, welcome to My Side of the Laundry Room. My name's Rob.
And I'm Chris.
And we're going to continue the list that we started last week, but this time we're going to talk about Skeletor and all of his lackeys and homies.
Which I think was an easier list to compile.
Yeah, I agree.
There was more villains. By far.
There are, and we talked a lot about it in the last episode, how visually appealing He-Man and his friends were, but the villains were even more eye-catching.
And what was nice about the villains is the use of color. So, like, you had, Whiplash is a great example. 2 different greens.
Yes.
Just something as simple as that. You know what I mean? Or Merman with 2 different, the yellow with the green offset. But I always thought that the villains were far more interesting in Masters of the Universe as far as their features and things like that, their color schemes, So, without any further ado, my friend, go ahead.
Well, ironically, you mentioned him, but Merman, one of my first ones.
Great character.
Something very different between the animated version and the toy that we got.
Completely.
I mean, the animated version had more bug eyes, more reptilian, amphibian type features.
More fish-like.
But at the time, in 1982, when he came out, there was nothing really like that out on the market.
From his sword, his get-up, everything. You know what I mean?
Yes. And still to this day, I mean, I would say his sword is a lot like...
It's as iconic as the character.
Yes. And it's kind of like one of those New Zealand war clubs. I guess the little bumps represent like shark teeth or something. Yeah, on it.
But yeah, that's yeah. But I great toy. There is something to be said about that first wave. Good and bad. There is something to be really said. The way those figures looked and the way they came across.
And they balanced them so
perfectly. Perfectly. But Merman was one of the great toys. It was also one of my first villains as well. One of my first toys. Because much like you said, I didn't know who was who.
Yeah.
The toys came out and it was a good year before I think the cartoon actually started up or something like that.
Yeah.
And, I got He-Man and Merman, long story behind that, but those were my first 2 characters. You know what I mean? So, anyway, great choice.
Yeah, I wish I could say more about it, but being the first wave, there were no real action features.
Other than the mini-comics, right.
The mini-comics, still awesome. I mean, I know Dark Horse has republished them, and I would
Which is
love
a very
to get
nice
hold
set,
of
by the way, if somebody, it's not that expensive.
No,
in the grand scheme of things, you know what I mean? So, but great choice.
What's your first on the list?
I'm going to go kind of same time frame. I'm going to go Triclops, okay?
Oh, yeah.
Visually stunning character yet again. Simple white with the green accents. But what was really cool about him was his sword, when he came out, was like nobody else's in the line.
Yes.
So that was an instantaneous, like, that sword doesn't belong with that guy, but yet it worked, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
So just...
And he had the thing on the back where you could put it.
Which was like unheard of in the
Yes.
line. I mean, it just was. It was unheard of in the line. But it was just a great toy, and it was so cool with the different eyes because, they had their own expressions. The red eye had like an indent in the top of it. So that just made him look that much cooler. Yet again, the cartoon elaborated on the person.
Yeah, and each eye had a different shape too. I think like they were triangle, square, and round.
But it was just a neat character with a neat action figure. And yet again, something as simple as just giving me a place to put the sword and a thing to turn the eye.
Yeah,
You know,
and he complimented Manny Faces. I don't
he
know
did.
if that
He
was
just
their plan, but of
probably,
having a
but
tri
yeah,
personality
yeah.
kind of thing going on.
But I loved it. And I don't think, even with Manny Faces, which we talked about in the last episode, and Triclops, they didn't really play up their features.
No.
You know, the eyes or the personalities, whatever you want to call it, enough, in my opinion. So, but I love the character, still love the character. One of my favorites.
Yeah,
So.
that's another one that I have up on the shelf.
Yes, yes, it does.
Yeah. Which I don't have that many left from my childhood, but there were a few.
You have more than I do.
That made the slaughter.
Anyway.
Yeah. The next one on my list, and if any other toy line would have done it, it would have been drug over the coals. But Faker. He was just a not painted, but molded color He-Man. He was a light blue with orange hair.
Mm-hmm.
And he had, like, Skeletor's bandolier more.
Mm-hmm.
Same weapons.
Yep.
And when you took off his armor, you had a sticker that was a little mechanical sticker. It looked like a reel-to-reel player. But for some reason, that blew my mind as a kid. It was enough of a difference where you didn't feel like, well, I got ripped off and got another He-Man.
You didn't mind buying that toy.
No. That's what we were saying in the last episode, that Mattel masterfully used molds over again. Simple paint jobs, or like with Mossman, just attaching
the felt
or
felt
whatever to it. Yeah, and you had a whole new character, and you felt like it was a whole new
The
character.
only thing that disappointed me about Faker, the only thing was the cartoon iteration.
Yes.
Because he didn't look like the toy. And I thought that was such a missed opportunity from a...
Yes, I agree with that.
But other than that, yes, I love Faker. I think he's one of the great toys. The visualization of the color scheme, again, we had the blue with the orange. It just grabbed your attention. You had no choice but to look at the figure and, make your decision whether you're going to buy it or not, So,
Yeah.
great toy. Great toy.
Yes, it was.
I'm going to go old school again. I'm going to go back to one of the first generations. I'm going to go to Trapjaw. Now, Trapjaw is a classic character.
Yes.
But yet again, action feature was awesome. He had a breastplate, half breastplate, arm on one side that had interchangeable arms. So it was a gun, it was a claw, it was three of them.
I want to say I lost him right off the bat.
Well,
so
I think every kid out there lost him.
I remember I had his gun probably
the longest
his whole lifespan.
And that's the thing that, yet again, this was a great toy because his jaw right here was articulated on the figure.
Yeah.
But the disappointing part of it was the cartoon part of him really only ever showed the rifle.
Right.
And I thought that was disappointing because you did get the 3 action figures features, which we can't remember, but the toy was great.
Yeah.
It was iconic. And we'll go back with that visualization again. Mm-hmm. Color scheme jumped out at you, popped, definitely made you want to buy that character.
Yes.
Right down to the stupid loophole in his head.
Well, that's the thing. It was a character with so many features. He could go down a zip line with his little notch on his head. He had the arm. He had the jaw.
Yep.
And he came with a glow-in-the-dark
Yes, he did.
skull ring.
Yes, he did.
What?
I have no idea.
Yeah,
Right.
but you could open it up, and not really put
Forgotten
anything
that.
in it.
I forgot about that.
Right,
completely.
but it's like...
Here's your first poison ring, kids.
Yeah, it would have been neat if all the other characters had come with a personalized glow-in-the-dark ring.
I agree.
At least in that way.
I agree. It's some sort of feature to carry on why Trapjaw had it, but he was definitely the bargain for your buck.
Oh, yeah.
Comparatively to some of the other
And yet
characters.
again, great color schemes.
Yep.
You had...
Jumped out at you.
The purples, the blues,
The black.
think like a neon greenish
Well, that was in the
color.
jaw line and
Yeah.
whatever else. Yeah, that was a great toy. Great toy is one of my favorites.
Yes.
Yet again, we harken back to Mossman. The Matty Collector did a version. Another fantastic toy.
Yeah, and they did an animated version
Yes,
as well.
they did. Yes, they did. But these are one of my favorite toys.
Yes.
Yet again, one of my favorite toys.
Yes, one of the best villains
Mm-hmm.
ever. Mm-hmm. Yet again, they kind of clowned them in the cartoon.
They did that with all of them, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Except for Hordak. Anyway.
My next one is Clawful. When I was talking about Mechanic in the last episode with the hard armor, Clawful had that as well. He had a chitinous type of armor that would clip over.
Lizard type face, right?
Yes, he
Yeah,
had a
yeah, I'm sorry.
lizard type
Yep.
of face with like fangs that were kind of detailed in there. But he had the huge lobster claw with
Yeah.
the handle on it that would open and close it.
I remember him.
And then he had like a small one here. But that lobster claw made it iconic because that thing, you could chase down your GI Joes and grab them up with it. You could also grab your He-Man figures with it.
So now it's a passe, but at the time, the action feature was fabulous.
Yes.
It was a fabulous action feature. There was nothing out on the market like it at the time. It definitely separated itself. You know, that character separated himself from some of the other great characters. I loved that toy.
And that's another one that you mentioned with how you could use two of the same color and it be so distinctively different, you know, because of the shades of reds.
And just by
oranges.
offsetting in the white, you know,
Yeah.
with the arms and legs and everything else, it worked with the character.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Because you felt like the chest plate wasn't the chest plate. Like that almost could have been his
Yes,
skin. You know what I mean?
definitely.
So that was a great
And maybe
design.
that was their plan, but, you know, you could take it off.
Oh
so
yeah,
of course
and the
you
first thing
did.
we did, right?
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And put it on He-Man
Yep.
or whatever.
You're gonna have ninjutsu anyway. So
So what's your next character?
okay, so 1 year later, I talked about this with the GI Joe toys. I have a thing with climbing characters. I freely admit I do. So if you give me some rope with a figure, I'll buy it most likely. Okay, I love Web Store. I think
Emmanuel Lewis?
Yes, I did.
Webster?
Absolutely, George Papadopoulos. I loved this character. Yet again, it was probably one of the least brilliantly colored because it was a
Yeah.
lot of tones of darks
Yeah.
and blues and blacks. But what separated him was the red eyes, and it
Yes.
gave the appeal of a spider on the forehead.
Yes.
Of course, the backpack came with a climbing claw, which really worked. So you could pull the claw out
For a
attach it to-
limited time until it...
for a limited time. But
Yeah.
this was a great, well thought out toy, and I loved it. It was one of my all time favorites. Probably just like I had mentioned about Rio Blast in the previous one. I really loved this toy,
Yes.
and I just think visually wise, I thought it was cool because it didn't look like the rest of them.
Yes.
You know, it wasn't some bright color with a dark color. No, this was just a darker color. You knew he was bad. You didn't even care what he did. You just knew he was a bad.
Yeah, and he kind of had an upturned nose and little fangs
yeah.
detailed.
He just
in there.
looked bad,
Yes,
you know?
yes.
So, what a
Yeah,
great toy.
He
Great.
was a great toy. My next one,
He played with Cobra.
I could see that.
So,
They
anyway.
would be best friends.
They would. They would definitely hang out on the weekends and stuff.
My next one is Jitsu, with the golden karate chop in hand, but he came with a large katana, and right there, of course, with ninja toys and samurai
time.
toys being super big in the 80s, you know, that spoke to me.
The metallic gold hand.
Yes.
That was a instantaneous, like, eye grabber
Oh,
when you were
yeah.
in the toy line.
Yes.
You know, toy aisle.
And he complimented Fisto. Yeah.
Him and Gung Ho hang out on the
Hey,
weekends.
you be quiet.
Great toy, though. All
Yes,
joking
it was.
aside, he was fantastic.
Yes.
And he was the first one of that era that was the Asian type character. You know what I
Yes.
mean? With the samurai top knot and, like you said, the katana. A very eye-catching character. The gold hand, I can't
Yes.
emphasize that enough. That really always kind of like, huh? You know?
And the spring action. I
Yes.
mean, it actually had some force to it.
It
how
did.
It would come down.
It did. Just like Fisto Tor.
Okay.
But one thing I never understood is they took the time and effort to put the gold paint on in Jitsu.
But
Okay?
they didn't put.
But they didn't
Excuse
put
me.
the sparkly silver paint on Fisto.
Right.
So I think that was kind of a missed opportunity. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
I agree. I agree with that.
never understood that. But that was a great toy. A fantastic toy. One of my favorites too. Honestly. So
That was a great toy. What's your next one?
all right, so here I'm gonna this is one that threw me for a loop, to be perfectly honest with you. It was shortly after the He-Man movie. Okay. With She-Ra.
Oh, okay, that movie.
Yes, that movie. And what threw me off is he wasn't with the other Masters of the Universe line. So I really didn't know that I'm not being funny when I say this, he came in a box, and it was Modulok. He did not come in the short pack.
Yeah.
He came in like a blister box. And at least the KB toys that I had purchased him, he was not on a peg. He was sitting on a shelf. So he was right there with, whatever vehicles were out at the time. So if you, for lack of a better term, if you didn't know the character existed, you didn't know what that was.
Yeah.
You would have assumed it was a vehicle. But essentially, this was one of the best toys in the toy line because it was literally like 40-some pieces of whatever, and you put
had two heads, so you could instantly have two different characters.
You had two torsos. You had two sets of arms. You had all these little like Y attachments, so you could put them on the torsos, and you could put both arms on them.
Ooh.
And then you had this centipede-like body that came off of the back. So you could make two individual characters, or you could do this amalgam character, and it was just a great toy. It was a Lego, Masters of the Universe toy.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And it was just, and they, of course, did another one later on. Actually, I think they did two, like a centipede type character, and then they did a robot character. But anyway,
I remember the robot guy.
But they expanded on that concept, and I think because Modulok was just such a, just an incredible toy for the time frame. And like I said, he came out late. He came out in like 85, 86, somewhere in there, or later, let me be clear. And it was just one of those toys where if you blinked, it felt like you missed it. At least that's how I felt.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I dumb lucked into it. I don't know any other way to tell you.
No.
You know what I mean? Because I do remember thinking, like, is this a vehicle? Does somebody ride him? You know what I mean? Because you know what I mean? The way he was designed and everything. And I think it's one of the great toys. And that's the kind of toy that I wish we saw more of today. Yeah. The innovative toy, the more creative, instead of just a simple 3 3/4 or 6-inch action figure. I just think there was just a neat figure.
Yeah.
It separated itself from the line.
It definitely
You know what I mean?
And I never had one. I always wanted one. But what you said about it being, it's innovation. I mean, that's what the 80s were about. And after, if you want to say there was a crash, that innovation disappeared.
You're right about that.
I mean, it seemed like...
You're right about that.
Yes, there were super crazy ideas just to snatch money, but they all lived within the universe. Like, it never felt like...
And there was no longevity.
No.
You know what I mean? I felt like after Masters Universe and G.I. Joe and Transformers, at least for the boys line, I'm not going to speak to the girls because the girls have had some tremendous lines that have gone forever. But after those big three, whatever you want to call it, it just seemed like there was no longevity.
Nothing stuck. I mean, even something as time-honored as Thundercats didn't last that long, and the toy lines didn't last that long.
But think of all the fly-by-nighters that we've talked about on this channel. The Sectars, the Centurions, the Inhumans, the whatever it was. You know what I mean? All these different characters that have just, or concepts that came out, comic, toy, cartoon, whatever the trifecta was, and none of them took.
No.
And it's kind of still that way. It's kind of still that way.
It is.
Anyway.
I mean, I've mentioned it before that when you go to Walmart, you have your Marvel, your DC, your Star Wars,
and then whatever the movie of the month is.
Yeah, and whatever movie. Right now it's Jurassic Park. Before
and
that,
Incredibles.
Yeah, they have some really cool toys,
yes,
by
they
the
do.
way. Anyway.
But anyway, Masters of the Universe.
Yes, back to Masters of the Universe.
Your next one, my friend.
The last one on my list is actually Whiplash. That, to me, I mean...
Best visual character.
It was.
Best visual character.
That tail was...
awesome.
It was awesome. And his little feature where his hips, you turn them and he would zip around.
The only downfall of that character was packaging.
Yes.
Because it seemed like, at least 2 or 3 days for that tail to sit, quote unquote, right after you got it out of the package.
I agree. Yeah.
You know what I mean? But other than that, the style of the character, the look of the character, the greens, which I think green's very appealing to the eye, hence Moss Man, like you were talking about. I think that was one of the prettiest figures ever made.
Yes. And the real soft pliability of the tail. I mean,
great toy. It was a great toy.
It was. Yet again, another character got turned into a clown on the cartoon. But, I mean, that was a toy that no matter what you were playing, he could fit any monster role. I mean, everything from G.I. Joe to Silverhawks or whatever.
He fit.
Yes.
He always fit. That was a great look to that toy. And that speaks to the concept.
Yes.
And the color scheme. And just the fact that, okay, I want to use him in this scenario. And even though I'm playing G.I. Joes, I don't even have my Masters Universe. I need to go get Whiplash because he's going to work.
Yes.
You know what I mean? I agree with that. Because of the tail feature. There was something to be said for that tail.
Simple, but, you know, it was a timeless.
I agree. 100%. 100%. My last one is another later release. He instantaneously grabbed my eye because it was kind of hit or miss with the Masters Universe line.
Yeah.
As far as accessories.
Oh,
you know what I mean? So some characters, like we talked about Trapjaw, had like, 5 different features or whatever. And then other ones would only have 1 or 2 or anyway. But in 87, towards the swan song of the line, a character came out, Ninjor. Now, Ninjor was basically a remold of Jitsu. The face was very similar, you know what I mean? But the thing that was neat about Ninjor was he came with a cloth ninja outfit. So, you tied him in the back and it gave him the hood and all this. And of course, he came with a sword and nunchucks and whatever else. But it was just such a departure from the rest of the line. And I kind of liked that. I liked it wasn't another repainted He-Man or Skeletor at the time. This was an original character. And of course, at the time, everything Ninja was selling like hotcakes. So it made sense for them to introduce this particular character at this particular time. But it was a great toy, had a great action feature, was very much Jitsu, again. But the katana was very cool. You know, it was just a lot of neat stuff on that toy. One of my favorites. Wish I still had it. Honestly, I wish I still had it. Much like Rio Blast, they were favorites of mine, and sorry they're not with me anymore. So.
Yeah, after doing these lists, I mean, I feel like...
You're happy?
Yeah.
But you're depressed?
Yeah. Definitely. Mm-hmm. I would love to go out to the local vintage toy store, but who knows how much that would set me back.
Or worse, you do this stuff, and I'm sure you all can relate out there, especially if you're our age, and you hop on Amazon, you hop on eBay, you hop on some of the toy traders sites that are out there, and you try to find these great toys. And me at least... I'll look for them loose as long as they're complete.
Oh yeah,
you know what I mean. But
I don't even need some complete anymore, really.
Well, some of them, you know what I mean.
Yes.
Yeah. So and when you're seeing price tags for toys, it's hard. You know what I mean? It's hard. It's really hard, especially people like us who've collected everything for as long as we have. You know what I mean? I've got so much stuff, and But here's our top 10 good guys and bad guys.
Yes.
What was your top 10?
Yeah.
Hit us up. Did we miss somebody? Favorite. Which I'm sure we did.
I mean, we didn't even tackle any of the Snake Men.
Or the Horde, really.
Or the Horde.
We only did Modulok. But I mean, or some of the figures that were released with Masters of the Universe, the movie.
Like Grizzlor.
Or Blade. Or whatever he was at. But anyway... Somebody may have fond memories of these toys. That's all the point of it is. Tell us about it. Tell us what was great about it. What made you buy it? This is just, one of our another top 10s. We're probably going to do the vehicles and...
Oh, definitely.
Our top 10 other Masters of the Universe things. You know what I mean? So anyway, this was a departure from Joe for once. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
That's
definitely.
Why I felt like it. So.
I mean, there was just so much great toys back then.
I agree.
Anyway, this has been My Side of the Laundry Room. Keep being rad.
Stay dorky.
And we'll catch you next time. Peace out. Hey, thanks for watching. If you liked what you saw, hit the subscribe button for some more awesome videos. We also have a couple here on the side you might be interested in. And until next time, thanks for watching, keep being rad, and stay dorky.